do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indie's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. I know I did. Yesterday was Easter. Had a great time seeing the in-laws. It was good. But I also got to watch 8 NBA playoff games, and it was an absolute blast watching every single one of them. I have a lovely, lovely wife who totally understands why I want to watch all of them, and she is very gracious and letting me do that. So big shout out to the wife. Anyway, Pacers and Bucks got the NBA playoff season started. And the Pacers opened it up with a win, beating the Bucks 117-98 to take a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 of the series is set for tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Make sure you are there. You want to be there because that Gainbridge atmosphere during the playoffs, there's nothing like it. I had the privilege of going to a game last year. Fantastic. It's an absolute blast. And it was as well on Saturday because the Pacers won pretty handily. They got production from everyone, while for most of the game, the Bucks only got production from Giannis. And a large part of why the Pacers had so much scoring from so many different people is because of how much the Bucks committed to Tyrese Halliburton on the defensive side of the floor. And the Pacers love that, because they have so many players who can go get or make a shot. When all eyes are on Halliburton, it opens up opportunities for Andrew Nembhard to get 4 layups in the first quarter like he did. By the way, that guy's shoulders just throwing it into people, knocking guys like Brook Lopez on their heels. So much fun to watch. Love it whenever he does that. Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell, they both came off the bench and really filled it up. Mathurin had a really nice second quarter where he scored 9 of his 13 points. The Pacers ended up finishing the game with 6 players in double figures. And a lot of that was because of how much attention was given to Tyrese Halliburton. The Bucks tried to get him to give the ball up, to not allow him to score, because as we know, whenever Tyrese Halliburton scores 20 points or more, Pacers are incredibly tough to beat. And Halliburton did not get to 20 points in this game. He had a bad shooting game, but the Pacers offense still looked pretty great through those first 3 quarters. Okay, his struggles caught up with them a little bit in the fourth. Halliburton's did, because they went to a little more Halliburton and Siakam screen and roll up on the wing. That is what the Pacers like to go to whenever they need a bucket. Okay, if you're more of a college basketball fan, think Braden Smith to Trey Kaufman down the stretch for Purdue. Same idea. Those are the Pacers' 2 best players. And when the Bucks made that push late, Pacers like, oh, hold up. Let's slow it down a little bit. We're going to Siakam and Halliburton, and they're going to take us home. They didn't. It was a little more Myles Turner than it was Tyrese Halliburton, but more on him here in a second. Their defense stayed incredibly strong despite the rough performance from Halliburton. It was really big. Myles Turner was a very large part of that. Not only was he awesome on the offensive end, he hit that big step back 3 late to kind of put the game out of reach. The Bucks had cut it to 12. He hits that 3. He pushed it back up to 15. He had 17 points, only 5 rebounds. I know people are going to complain about that, but he defended like crazy. Guarding Giannis and Brook Lopez. He had 4 blocks. Defending the rim. I thought he was nothing short of exceptional in that game. Siakam, he was awesome. He was the Pacers' best player. 25 points, 7 rebounds. Defended Giannis as best that he could. He's having a career year from 3. Saw that on display. 3 of 5 from downtown. He is so incredibly underrated. It's so frustrating. Like he is the most underrated player in the NBA, definitely this year. He should be 3rd team All-NBA. That is how good Siakam has been from start to finish. I know Tyrese Halliburton has gotten some of the pub to be on an All-NBA team. We'll see whether or not he makes it. But Siakam should be the guy because he has been so consistent from start to finish. And after the game, Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle was asked about Pascal Siakam and his impact on the game.
I think the average person watching the game wouldn't presume that he was 10 for 15 with 25 points. I mean, I think that's it. And a lot of his baskets come at in timely parts of the game, and for some reason they kind of get overlooked a little bit, But that's part of his grace as a competitor, and so he's obviously very, very important to us.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Pascal Siakam, who led the way for the Pacers in that game, 25 points, 7 rebounds, and did a pretty solid job defending Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in that game. And while he played really well, Tyrese Halliburton struggled to shoot the ball. But I still thought he was good. This was not timid, I'm not looking for my shot, Tyrese Halliburton, that we saw occasionally during the playoffs last year. He was aggressive. He was looking to score, and that is when the Pacers are at their best. He was 0 of 7 from 3. That probably won't happen again. He's too good of a shooter for that. Okay, but he always seems to make the right decision, and that's a great thing. He doesn't turn the ball over. The Pacers in general don't. No one on the Indiana Pacers had more than 1 turnover. That's obviously a great thing, and I do think that Halliburton leads the charge in that. But the thing with Halliburton is you want him in a position where he makes a decision that leads to someone scoring, which, in other words, he needs to touch the paint. Because when he's getting to the rim, when he's just getting in that mid-range area and he's a legitimate threat to score, it opens up everything for everyone else, especially with how the Bucks were defending him. Okay, they constantly had eyes on him, and that allowed other guys to get open and score, like Myles Turner and Aaron Nesmith and Mathurin in that second quarter, and so on. So even though he didn't shoot the ball very well, I still thought Tyrese Halliburton played a good game offensively. Defensively, he was good. Okay, always where he was supposed to be, active hands, all those things. Whenever he did get switched onto Giannis, there were a couple times in transition where, everything's kind of out of whack and Halliburton winded up having to defend Giannis. He still, competed and put up a halfway decent fight guarding a dude way bigger than him and extremely, extremely skilled. Here's Rick Carlisle after the game talking about Tyrese Halliburton's performance.
Everybody on our team's got to be armed and dangerous, to score. Striking the right balance is everything for our team. And so as we get into this and you go from game to game, there's going to be different storylines. There's going to be different skirmishes during the game. There's going to be all kinds of that stuff. We've got to maintain a level head and a high level of aggression, while also maintaining poise.
Rick, Tyrese struggled shooting the ball tonight. What'd you like about his overall game, and still obviously doing what he normally does, getting guys involved?
Yeah, I don't worry about his shooting. It took a while for him to get on the board, but every team is going to be trying to make life miserable for him, and he understands it. And he's developed a really good discipline and patience when teams, try to take him out of it early. So, I'll have to look at the whole game to be really, really able to give you a global answer on that. But I thought he balanced things very well, and I thought defensively, his attention to detail was very good in this game, and it's got to be very good for everybody because these guys cause so many problems, and we're talking about a game where Lillard didn't even play yet, so there'll be a lot going on as we move forward.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about Tyrese Halliburton's performance in that first game. I'm with him. I don't worry about Tyrese Halliburton. It is shooting. That he's going to figure it out at some point, but the aggressiveness was there, even though he wasn't making shots, and that's really what you want to see. He had 12 assists. That's what you want. Tyrese Halliburton, double-digit assists games are what you're looking for from him, and he did it. He had 8 of them in the first half, just getting to his spots, drawing 2, finding a cutter. Really impressive. He also grabbed 7 rebounds, which is big because, as we know, Myles Turner is not a dominant rebounder. He's just not. So you have to have other guys who were able to come in and assist in that department. Tyrese Halliburton did that, pulling down 7 rebounds. Jarris Walker had 5 rebounds in 17 minutes. Tyrese Halliburton finished the night plus 27. That doesn't happen unless he's aggressive and looking to score. Hopefully, this is a trend that we see continue for him throughout the rest of the series. Now, while the Pacers offense looked spectacular, their defense was really good. The Bucks offense did not look nearly as good nor as clean as the Pacers, where the Pacers offense was built on ball movement and quick decisions. Guys are cutting, setting screens. It's a fun offense to watch. And it generated a lot of great looks for that for the Pacers. But you look, on the other end of the floor, and that Bucks offense just didn't look like that when Giannis was on the court. Every time Giannis touched the ball, the Bucks offense just stopped. Everyone is like, okay, I'm standing at the 3-point line. I'm out of the way. Let's see what Giannis does. Giannis would then sprint to the rim, run over/through multiple Pacer defenders, and get fouled or finish at the bucket. Sometimes he would get fouled and finish. So it was either that or some sort of drive and kick from Giannis, even though I thought the Pacers did a really good job of limiting him to only 1 assist. He took 15 free throws, which I thought was kind of insane. I thought he got bailed out just a couple of times. I get it. He's Giannis. He's going to go to the rim. He's going to get fouled. Like, it's going to happen. But 15 free throws was just insane. It felt like he drew 37 different fouls. It was frustrating. And it's something that the Pacers are going to have to fix going forward. Like, you can't allow him to shoot 15 free throws a game. Pacers got kind of lucky. He only made 8 of them, but he'll have nights where he'll make, 12 of 15. He's a little up and down in terms of his ability to make free throws. And if he's getting to the line 15 times and you're playing against Lillard, like, you can't allow the Bucks to shoot 40 free throws in a game. You can't allow that. Here's what Carlisle after the game talking about Giannis a little bit and also the need to foul less.
Giannis got to the basket too much. We're trying to build walls. He's still getting there. And he's a great player, and great players cause, collateral problems. And so it's not a surprise, but, we got to look at that. We fouled them a lot. We've got to cut down on fouls, and, we'll see. I mean, the ebbs and flows of a series are so up and down. It's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen from game to game.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about, just an adjustment that they need to make for game 2. And the biggest thing is not putting Giannis on the line 15 times. Like, you can't continue to do that, especially when Damian Lillard comes back. But I did think that the Pacers' overall defensive game plan was really good. They only allowed Giannis to have 1 assist. They didn't generate a ton of 3-point looks off of those Giannis drives. And no matter how good or great your best player is, when you ask them to just consistently go one-on-one and to create for everyone, like, that's not good offense. And it's not sustainable over the course of 48 minutes. And it's definitely not sustainable over the course of a 7-game series. It clearly did not work in this game. The Bucks were minus 18 with Giannis on the floor. Like, that's terrible. That's awful. The Pacers, I thought, did an excellent job defensively, even though they fouled a little bit too much. And look, if Giannis is going to be minus 18, or if the Bucks are going to be minus 18 when Giannis is on the floor, Damian Lillard can come back whenever he wants. It's not going to matter. It's not. But he was the only offense that the Bucks had. He had 19 points at half. Gary Trent Jr. was their second leading scorer with 6. They had 3 players with 0 points at half. 2 of them were starters. Kyle Kuzma didn't log a stat. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, like 24 minutes played. I know the Bucks are so glad that they gave up Chris Middleton for that guy. Okay, so the thing that you're going to hear people say or talk about to try and make this series sound more interesting is, when Damian Lillard comes back, he's going to help the Bucks, which is only partially true. It's only partially true. yes, Damian Lillard will obviously help with the offensive side of the basketball. He will. Like he's going to score because he's an excellent offensive player, even though I feel pretty good about putting Nembhard on him because Nembhard has had a really good year this year on the defensive side of the ball. But Damian Lillard's not going to fix all of their issues. The Bucks defense was not good, and Damian Lillard will not help with that. The Pacers scored 93 points in 3 quarters. The Pacers generated so many, not just open threes, like wide open threes, no one within like 10 feet of the shooter. The Pacers were excellent getting the ball to the rim and scoring in the paint. Like, and you have to have that. You do. You have to generate open threes and you have to score at the rim. The Pacers did both. Damian Lillard, not helping with that. It's not happening. Their defense will get worse when Damian Lillard comes back out of shape because he hasn't really been able to work out. So sure, Damian Lillard may score 25 a game in this series. He probably will because he's a great player. But he's not fixing all of the issues that the Bucks had in game 1. In fact, when he comes back, their defense is only going to get worse. So I feel really good about the Pacers going forward in this series because the offense looks good. The Bucks defense is going to get worse when Damian Lillard's playing 35 to 40 minutes a game. Maybe. He probably won't play that much, especially early when he's just trying to get his legs back underneath him. So I feel really good about that. And this Pacers defense is good. It is incredibly underrated. It is. It is one of the best units in the league, and I say that, and you're like, Jonathan, what are you talking about? This is the Indiana Pacers. They're up and down. They're scoring. It's Tyrese Halliburton, wheeling and dealing and doing all these amazing things. And yes, it is that. But it's also a really tough defense. They've had the 7th best defense in the NBA since December 13th. After that 10-15 start, they have been nothing but excellent on the defensive side of the basketball. They have a 57-game stretch of having the 7th best defense in the NBA. And when you have a top 10 defense, and you have a top 10 offense, and you have a guy in Tyrese Halliburton and another guy in Pascal Siakam who can go and get you buckets late, you are not only a good basketball team, you are an excellent one. Excellent. And part of why the Pacers are better defensively this year is because Tyrese Halliburton has bought in and really improved on that side of the ball. You heard Coach Carlisle mention that earlier. Pascal Siakam is a good defender. I know that Giannis went for 39 or 38, however many he ended up having. But Siakam did a pretty solid job of staying in front of him and making things tough. Mathurin and Walker off the bench, they have good stretches defensively. TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith need no introduction when it comes to those guys and their ability to play defense. Myles Turner, 4 blocks in the game. He's a good defensive anchor who's been doing it for like a decade now. They held the Bucks to under 100 points. That's what good defenses do. That is mightily impressive. To hold Giannis, I get it, no Dame, don't care. To hold a Giannis-led offense to under 100 points is incredibly impressive. I love the Pacers in this series. I said I'd take them in 7. Wouldn't be surprised if they won it in less than 7 games because they looked awesome in game 1. Will they shoot it as well? I don't know. I think they can. They had a really bad 4th quarter. I say bad, and they still outscored the Bucks by 2. Okay, so they're going to be fine. I feel really good about the Pacers going forward. With that being said, Damian Lillard's going to come back. He's obviously going to make the series different. I don't think that the Bucks will shoot as poorly as they did in game 1. They were 9 of 37 from 3. That's only 24%. They're a better 3-point shooting team than that. But at the same time, I didn't feel like their looks offensively were as good as the ones that the Pacers generated. And if I'm getting better shots than you, then I feel pretty great about my chances to win the game. And, I've talked about Halliburton. I've talked about Siakam. Myles Turner, I don't think I talked about enough. He was outstanding. He just seemed to make the play when the Pacers needed a play. Whether it was a block at the rim, maybe it was the 3 late to put them back up 15 when the Bucks were in the process of making a run. Okay. he was outstanding, but defensively, like that is the biggest thing because the Bucks want to get to the rim and spacing starts at the rim. You have to have someone who can block shots and make things tough and contest. Myles Turner can do that. And we saw it on full display there in game one. And another thing that's really big for the Pacers, not only in this series, but if they get past this series, is the bench. Like they need production from the bench. And over the weekend, I saw multiple young players just crap down their leg playing in their first playoff game. And the Pacers' young guys, Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin, did not do that. I thought they were good. They were very poised, very in control of everything that they did. Coach Carlisle took notice as well. Here he is after the game, complimenting Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin's performances in their first playoff games.
I think they both did a very solid job out there. Mathurin's offense in the first half was a big factor. He had drives. He was active around the basket and cuts. Jarris hit a big shot. It's great for those guys to jump right into the deep end. Against a seasoned veteran playoff team in Milwaukee. I mean, they got a lot of guys that played a lot of playoff games, and to feel what it's like. The second half was a little bit different for everybody. It just they went more zone. They got it slowed down a little bit, and so the game's going to feel different. It's going to be different, and so we got to look at that. But overall, I was very happy for them. It was a great opportunity for them to get right into it, and some very good things happened.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about the production from Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin. Walker played a really good 17 minutes. If you go and if you look at, the box score, you're going to be like, he wasn't that great. He only scored 3 points. He only took 2 shots. He only had 1 steal, picked up 5 rebounds. He rebounded really well. Love the way he rebounds. Anyway, he defended Giannis pretty well. And they need that. They need those extra 6 fouls. That's really why he's playing in this series. They need a guy to go in there for 15 to 18 minutes and just spell Siakam and keep him from fouling out. But you can only do that with Jarris Walker when he's a plus on the offensive side of the ball. I thought he passed the ball extremely well. He was just very smart. He didn't force anything. He took 2 shots. One was an open 3. The other one was like a fadeaway from the foul line when the shot clock was at 2 seconds. I thought he played well. I thought he was really good, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is really where the Pacers need him in this series. Mathurin bothered me a little bit. He took 6 threes. Don't appreciate that. That's way too many. Way too many for Mathurin, a guy who's only shooting 34% from 3 going into the playoffs. But he did do a good job of getting to the rim. Took 8 free throws. That is a valuable thing to have in the playoffs because when things aren't going your way, if you can get to the rim, get fouled, go to the line, and kind of slow the pace down a little bit, gives everyone an opportunity to just catch their breath before continuing on. So Mathurin was good. Walker was good. Myles Turner, probably the second best player in that game for the Pacers. But, man, Pascal Siakam leading the way. Game 2 tomorrow night. I can't wait for it. If you know me at all, you know how much I love the NBA. You know how much I love watching these Indiana Pacers, just play basketball because they're very well coached and they just play hard. So game 2 tomorrow night, NBA TV. Whoop, whoop. I know you love that. And I can't wait to watch this game. Everyone, I think in Indianapolis is very proud and very excited about this Indiana Pacers team. And the Colts wish they could say the same. The people of Indianapolis are disappointed and really just fed up with the Indianapolis Colts, and it's only going to get worse because the NFL draft on Thursday night, and we're doing a nice little episode here of likely, most likely, and absolutely Colts draft edition when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week, or a nice start to your week. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Hopefully you had a happy Easter. I know I did. And it was a blast. Got to watch the Pacers pick up a win on Saturday. And the series continues tomorrow night. Can't wait for that game. But I could wait for the NFL draft. I won't lie to you. There's a lot going on. The Pacers are fun. They're exciting. The Colts are not. They are boring. I think people are dreading the season. The Colts are going to play at 1 o'clock every Sunday again because who cares about this bad football team? Seriously. And they're only going to get worse because the NFL draft is happening Thursday, and you know that the Colts are going to find some way to disappoint us. So I do this game from time to time. We call it will likely, most likely, and absolutely. It's 3 predictions for the upcoming NFL draft, starting with one that I kind of feel good about, and then we slowly get more and more definite in our predictions. So let's start with will likely. The Colts will likely draft a tight end in the first 2 rounds. Colts need a tight end. That has been advertised a lot. But there are also several other needs that the Indianapolis Colts have. If Tyler Warren is on the board at 14, the Colts will take Tyler Warren at 14. I'm just not convinced that he's going to be available in that spot. And then it comes down to, do the Colts like Colston Loveland enough to take him with the 14th pick? That ends up being the question. Do Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard and the rest of that war room like him enough? I don't know if they do or not. And then the question just becomes even bigger when you say, do they like him more than all these other players available at positions of need for the Colts? Because the Colts need more than a tight end. They need a linebacker. They need an offensive tackle. They need another edge rusher. I know you love hearing that. They need a defensive tackle. And there are going to be good options at those positions at that spot, especially since some guy is going to fall. There's a guy who falls every single year. Maybe it's Will Johnson, a guy who could be considered the best cornerback in this draft class. A guy, before the college football season started, a guy who was supposed to be like a top 5 pick. Maybe he falls to 14 because teams don't like that he didn't test. Do the Colts take him then? So, I say will likely because, there are definitely different things that could happen here. There's going to be good players at positions of importance for the Indianapolis Colts. And Chris Ballard is also a value guy. If he thinks he can get a good tight end in the second or third round, he'll pass on a potentially great tight end in the first round to get a good offensive tackle or a good linebacker or a good edge rusher or whatever. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he waited until the 3rd round to take a tight end, because this is a deep tight end class. After Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, a lot of the other tight ends feel pretty similar in terms of the ceiling. And I think Chris Ballard, if he doesn't take Colston Loveland with that 14th pick and Warren's already off the board, by the time the Colts pick again in the 2nd round, Loveland's going to be gone. And he's sitting there, he's like, I can get Mason Taylor or I can get that big kid out of Miami in the 3rd round. I think I'll wait. Linebacker out of, who cares university. You're an Indianapolis Colt. Congratulations. So while it feels likely that the Colts will take a tight end in the 1st or 2nd round, I don't think it's a guarantee because there's a lot of depth at the tight end position. Someone is going to fall in the NFL draft. I do think Dallas Goedert is potentially on the board just because that's someone that Shane Steichen is familiar with. I don't know what they'd have to give up in the trade. I don't know if they could afford to pay Goddard after they traded for him. So, that's obviously an angle of this that the Colts would have to figure out. But I do think that might be on the board as well. So, the Colts will likely take a tight end in the first or second round, but I don't think it's as guaranteed as everyone else does. Most likely, the Colts will most likely trade down from that 14th pick. They're trading back, baby. This is the Chris Ballard MO. Tyler Warren is on the board at 14. I think he stays put. But if he's not, he's going to trade down to take an offensive tackle. That is what's going to happen. There are a couple of different offensive tackles who could go in the top 10 picks. As a very, very possible thing. And then there are a few offensive tackles who are going to go towards the end of the first round. There is no offensive tackle that deserves to be picked somewhere between like 11 and 20. And Chris Ballard is going to look at that and be like, great, I can trade back, pick up an extra third round pick, and we can really get this party started. Whoop, whoop. Chris Ballard is going to position himself to grab one of those offensive tackles at the end of the first round. I think that is most likely to happen because the trenches are very important to him, and the Indianapolis Colts need an offensive tackle. Okay? And this is most likely to happen because Tyler Warren's not going to be on the board at 14. If he is, he stays put. If not, they are going to move back. I also think that we do need to consider a little bit more the amount of pull that Shane Steichen has, because I think he has quite a bit. Because I think that if you were to ask Jim Irsay, you were to inject him with some truth serum and say, hey, who do you like more, Shane Steichen or Chris Ballard? I think he would say Shane Steichen. So if he wants Colson Loveland at 14 or some other player at 14, then Chris Ballard will be very inclined to take them because that's what Shane Steichen wants. But if Shane Steichen's indifferent about Loveland, then they're going to move down and pick up an offensive tackle because they need one. As boring as they are, that is what they need. Now, something that will absolutely happen. I feel super confident about this. The Colts will absolutely disappoint us. It's the one thing that I know is going to happen in this NFL draft because Chris Ballard does it time and time again. They just find a way to draft the wrong dude, pull the wrong string, make the wrong trade. Like, this is just who Chris Ballard has been for the majority of the 9 years that he's been here. Like, let's go through these first-round picks. It hasn't been great. Last year, they take Leatu Latu. He wasn't great. There's still some hope for him, though. I saw Brian Baldinger do a video breaking down some Latu tape, and he was like, this is going to be a double-digit sack guy at some point. Hope he's right. He has to get better. 2023 first-round pick, he took Anthony Richardson. That doesn't look like a good pick at all right now. 2022, no selection. They traded for Carson Wentz. We know how that went. 2021, they take Kwity Paye, who's been solid at best. He's not an elite pass rusher. He's gotten eight sacks these last 2 years, but like the pressure rate is only at like 10%. It's not very good. Okay, like he gets more sacks than he should for some reason. But it's like, hey, he's good against the run. Yeah, because that's why you draft an edge rusher in the first round. No, like if you're taking an edge rusher in the first round, and well, I do think that the expectation for Kwity Paye is a little high sometimes because it's not like this dude was like the 4th pick. Okay, he was like the 22nd pick, 21st pick, somewhere in there. Like, he shouldn't be Nick Bosa or anyone like that, but he should be better than what he is, given the fact that the Colts used a first-round pick on him. He hasn't lived up to being a first-round pick. They haven't given him an extension yet. They picked up the 5th-year option, but, that's really it. That's just kind of what you do if you're just kind of holding out hope for a guy who's been just barely good enough. So that was the 2021 first-round pick. 2022, no selection. They traded their pick to the 49ers for DeForest Buckner, who's been solid, but not great. That pick ended up being Tristan Wirfs, an excellent offensive tackle. Would love to have that guy right now. 2019, no selection. They traded it to the Commanders for two second-round picks. That pick ended up being Montrez Sweat, who's currently doing a pretty decent job for the Bears. He's a fringe double-digit sack guy throughout his career. 2018, they take Quentin Nelson with the 6th pick, and he is probably the best pick of the Chris Ballard tenure. The issue is he took an offensive guard with the 6th pick. Yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's probably the Colts' best player. But that can't be your best pick over a 9-year span. If your best pick over a 9-year period is an offensive guard, then you end up where the Colts are right now. And that's not very good and and irrelevant. The Colts are irrelevant in every single place outside of Indianapolis. That's what happens when your best pick in 9 years is an offensive guard. And I feel bad saying that because I like Quentin Nelson, but he's got to be better in the draft than what he's been, especially in that first round. And in 2017, first guy he took, Malik Hooker, didn't stick around very long. Last name's fitting. And he wasn't very good. Colts had to decline his 5th-year option. Like, that is the definition of admitting defeat on a player that you drafted. Not picking up that 5th-year option that is only available to first-round picks. It's why so many quarterbacks end up going in the first round. Anyway, that's the first-round draft history of Chris Ballard. And it is not good. It's not good. No other way to really put it. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, something much better than the Colts, something that makes me just a little happier is playoff basketball. We got more playoff games tonight. Clippers and Nuggets play, and then the Knicks play the Pistons. I'm going to talk about those games a little bit, give you my game one thoughts from those series. I have game one thoughts on every game that happened over the weekend. I'll just give them to you as game twos roll around, just so you know that's kind of how I'm going to structure all of this. So Clippers, Nuggets, game 2 tonight, and Pistons, Knicks, game 2 tonight. I'll give you my game one thoughts on those 4 teams as well when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe, you can also be part of the conversation by hopping in the chat. Maybe you're listening via the Indy Sports Ticket app, but you can download wherever you find your apps. Maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there. And if you want even more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube channel, my other little thing that I do. In addition to this, it's fun. You should go check it out. Anyway, we have more NBA playoff games going on tonight. Pistons-Knicks game 2 gets us underway. But first, I want to touch on game 1. So, feels like the Pistons missed out on a pretty great opportunity to steal a game in New York in that first game on Saturday. They go into the fourth quarter. They're up by 8. And then the Knicks are like, we're going to go on a 21-0 run. Good luck trying to catch us. Karl Anthony Towns is making like tough one-legged floaters, campaigns, getting hot. The Detroit Pistons are turning the basketball over left and right. This is brutal. Okay. New York outscored the Pistons by 19 in the fourth quarter. They scored 40 on the Pistons, who are a tough defensive team. If you want to win a playoff series as a lower seed, you can't lose games when you have an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Like you can't allow that to happen. The Pistons wasted not only a fourth quarter lead, but they had they shot the ball so well in that game. 47% from 3, 15 of 32 from downtown. The Knicks were 10 of 26. Like you can't allow, you can't lose games when you outshoot your opponents by that much. You also can't waste a great Tobias Harris game. I know that there are 76er fans that were watching that game so upset. Because Tobias Harris does nothing in Philadelphia in the playoffs for 4 or 5 years. And he comes out playing for the Pistons in New York, in the Garden, 25 points, 4 or 5 from 3. He's probably not going to play that well again. Malik Beasley also probably isn't going to shoot 6 of 12 from 3 again, even though he's been, you could argue the third best three-point shooter in the NBA this year. It just feels like the Pistons missed a chance to steal a game, and it was because of their youth. I talked earlier in the show about Jarris Walker and Mathurin and how although it was their first playoff game, it didn't look like that. They were very calm. They were very in control. They made good decisions with the basketball. Pistons young guys, it didn't really look like that. Cade Cunningham struggled early. If you look at his end of the game numbers, he looked good, 21 points and 12 assists, but he only had 6 points at half on 3 of 10 shooting. It just took him the first half to kind of settle in. I think he'll be better tonight in game 2. I just think it took him, a half to kind of adjust to what the playoffs are like. And you can't have that from your best player. If your best player has a bad half and you're, the lesser team in the series, you're going to lose that game. Okay. And I feel like if this was the second time the Pistons had played in the playoffs, if this was Cade Cunningham's, second playoff appearance, then I think the Pistons win that game on Saturday. And this is why it's tough to bet on younger teams in the playoffs, because you have stretches like what you saw at the start of that fourth quarter, and you have slow starts from Duren and Thompson and Cade Cunningham, 3 guys that are pretty important to the success of the Detroit Pistons. So they struggled for just a couple stretches too long, and the Knicks were awesome. That starting 5 it's as good as anyone. It is. And the Knicks are just better than the Pistons. Karl Anthony Towns was awesome. 23 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. He stuffed the stat sheet. I know Jalen Brunson had 34, but their best player in that game was Karl Anthony Towns. Every time they needed a bucket, he was the one who seemed to get it. He was very active on the defensive side of the ball. He rebounded well. He was awesome. And if he continues to play like that, the Knicks are going to be incredibly tough to beat. not just, for the Pistons, but the Celtics probably in the second round, and then, any combination of the Cavaliers, Pacers, or Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. So Towns, if he plays like that, man, watch out for the Knicks, because the Pistons don't have anyone who can guard him. That's part of it. Like, Duran's too slow. They try to put Thompson on him. He's too small. Like, he's just a really tough matchup for Detroit, and he should continue to have his way in that series. Jalen Brunson had a nice game. Took him a bit to get going, but, finished with 34 points and 8 assists. Kind of hard to complain when you score 30. OG Anunoby's 12 points in the first quarter were really big for the Pistons or for the Knicks in terms of, like, matching the Pistons early. I thought OG did a good job defending Cade Cunningham as well. They got a nice little cameo from Campaign. He had 11 points in the fourth quarter, which is just crazy. And the Knicks need something like that in every series. They need McBride or Payne or Shamet to come in off the bench, have a little cameo, and then go back to the bench. That's what they need. And tonight, I'm very intrigued to see just like a few things. Like, do the Pistons' young players get off to better starts? Do they look more comfortable? Does Cade Cunningham start better than 3 of 10 from the floor? That is the thing for me that I want to see going into game 2. Like, how do the young Pistons players look early in the game after the rough start in game 1? Because Cade Cunningham's going to have to be good in all 4 quarters for the Pistons to pull a game off the Knicks on the road. Also, how does Jalen Brunson look? Part of why he got off to a slow start is because he's coming back from this ankle injury. He tweaked that same ankle a couple times in game 1. Now, he finished the game. He played well, even though his ankle was clearly bothering him. But he has to be good. If he's limping around for, the 45 minutes he's on the floor, because that Coach Thibodeau is going to leave him out there for quite some time. Like how does he look on that ankle? And then the last thing, or second to last thing, does OG Anunoby continue to be a plus offensive player? Like, usually he's a guy, if he's open, he'll score. He can attack a closeout. He's been doing more than that here as of late. And if he continues to be an offensive force, just makes the Knicks all the more tough to stop. And then finally, do the Pistons find a way to slow down the impact of Karl Anthony Towns? Because that dude, like, he's so problematic for them. Like, they have to find a way to slow him down, because if he's hitting threes and he's getting to the rim and he's rebounding and he's blocking shots and he's doing everything that he did in that first game, you are very simply not going to beat the New York Knicks. You definitely aren't going to beat them on the road. So Knicks and Pistons, that is the first game tonight. That game is set to start at 7:30. The 10 o'clock game, the late game, the Clippers are set to take on the Nuggets. Can't wait for that game. That was the best, that game 1 was the best game of the weekend. Jamal Murray got it going for stretches. Jokic, best player on the planet. He was awesome. The Clippers, it's James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, isolation, finding ways to get buckets, and really impressive. Everything that I saw from the Clippers, you could argue like they've been, you can't argue it. They have been like one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league coming into, the last month of the season. Like, that's how good the Clippers have been. Kawhi Leonard looked incredibly healthy in that game 1. He's not limping around. There's no knee issue. Like, he just looked good. And that is so obviously incredibly important for the Clippers, but they couldn't find a way to get it done, which is obviously the thing that matters more than anything else. Like you have to get the win, especially when you have an opportunity, like you're in overtime and you have a great chance to win the game in regulation. They, messed up themselves a couple times, like having a 5-second violation, not getting trying to inbound that ball to Harden. Russell Westbrook makes a really good play to knock it off Harden, and that was kind of it. But yeah, like the Clippers kind of feels like they gave that game away a bit, but I was still very impressed by the Nuggets and everything that they did in that game. So we'll talk Clippers Nuggets game 1 and game 2 tonight, and then we'll go back to the Pacers and talk about the rest of that series with the Milwaukee Bucks. All that coming your way at 11 o'clock.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
If a carpet refresh is on your to-do list, now's the time to check it off, because right now you can take advantage of our Buy More, Save More savings. The more you buy, the more you save, up to 15% on select special order carpet purchases. Plus, the Home Depot Home Services can handle the installation for you. All that's left is to enjoy that stunning new carpet and step into softness. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. Offer valid April 17th through May 4th. Receive up to 15% off special select order carpet purchases. Minimum purchase required. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
Point. Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
Oh, I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down.
Ace,
you're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week, or a nice start to your week. Geez, sorry. I've been busy, so it feels like it's not Monday. Feels like a Friday, because I'm just buzzing a little bit. Love the NBA playoffs. That's what I did all weekend. That, and obviously celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so it was a great weekend. Hopefully you had a nice Easter. Hopefully you had an opportunity to sit down and watch these great basketball games. And we're going to get to the Pacers here in a second. But the Clippers-Nuggets game one, it was the best game of the weekend. Overtime, Nuggets beat the Clippers 112-110 to take a 1-0 series lead. Game two set to happen tonight. Jamal Murray is in playoff mode. It happened. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. That's big just because they need another creator. He had a couple big threes during the comeback in the fourth quarter. The Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray two-man game wasn't as lucrative as it normally is, but Jamal Murray still continued to find ways to score the basketball. But he can be better. Okay, like he wasn't super efficient, but I still thought that he played well. Aaron Gordon was amazing, 25 points, 8 rebounds. He only made 1 3, but it was when the game was close and the Nuggets needed a bucket. He was open, and he knocked it down. And he was excellent defensively, defending Kawhi. He got to the rim, which led to him getting to the free throw line. He had 8 of 10 free throws. And that is the thing for the Denver Nuggets. Like they have to have other guys score the basketball other than Nikola Jokic. And more importantly, like they have to do it on their own. Like you can't ask, or you can, it's just not wise, to ask Jokic to do absolutely everything every time down the floor. So Gordon getting to the line, for 10 free throws is big. Jamal Murray isolating it and finding ways to score is big. And the biggest thing in this series that I noticed, the Nuggets are not a very good defensive team. And I'm very intrigued to see if the Clippers make any adjustments to this. But the Clippers almost always had a guy on the floor with 0 offensive ability the entire game. Like, you can't allow that to happen. Like, between Chris Dunn and Ben Simmons, like, those guys are zeros on offense. Like, the Nuggets are not worried about those guys in the slightest. And this is one of the great things about the Pacers. Like, they always have someone on the floor who can score. Like, all 5 guys at all times are able to find a way to score, whether that's, cutting, maybe it's a catch and shoot 3, or maybe it's just creating on their own. The Pacers always have 5 guys on the floor that you have to pay attention to offensively. Clippers don't have that. They don't. Chris Dunn and Ben Simmons cannot score in any way, shape, or form. And that's why they lost. It is. The Nuggets are not a good defensive team. But when you're having to guard 4 guys instead of 5, it makes it a lot easier. I mean, the Nuggets just abandoned Chris Dunn and Ben Simmons. They're like, you know what? If you guys want to shoot, you go right ahead. Ben Simmons won't. Chris Dunn, he hit a couple shots, but that's fine. You just live with it. And you say he probably won't make the next one. And I thought that was ultimately why they won. They were able to double, Zubac. If he got Jokic in a tough spot, they were able to kind of help a little bit more on Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. And that, to me, was the biggest difference in game one. Also, Kawhi Leonard didn't have the ball enough. I get it. James Harden, excellent player. He took 21 shots, and he was great, but he shouldn't be taking 7 more shots than Kawhi Leonard. Especially Kawhi Leonard was having a good game. He was 9 of 15 from the floor. I thought that was a mistake. James Harden was good. He was 11 of 22. Like I said, he played well. But, he had a big 3 in overtime. He had multiple big floaters late in the fourth quarter and overtime as well. But he's not their best player. It's Kawhi Leonard. He needed to have the ball more than what he did. The Clippers would go through these long stretches where Kawhi, he wouldn't even touch the ball. And that can't continue to happen if they want to win this series. Jokic, though, continues to be great. 29 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals. This was with Zubac defending him. Did you know that Zubac is statistically the best defender to ever guard Jokic? I didn't know that. And then they said it a million times during the broadcast. It was so incredibly annoying. It didn't matter. He was still plus 13, and he controlled everything on the offensive end. It was just incredible watching what he did offensively. And he's why they're going to win this series. When it's late and you need a bucket, he's going to generate a good look for you every time down. Every time. And the Clippers aren't going to do that, especially when you're basically playing 4-on-5 offense because you have Chris Dunn on the floor, and you have to have him on the floor because you need his defense. Something I was not a fan of that the Nuggets did in that game was Russell Westbrook closing. Like, there was good, and then there was bad, and then there was good, and then there was bad. You know, he hits the three to put him up too late, and it happens because the Clippers just abandoned him to go double Jokic. They weren't worried about him at all, but he hit a big three, and that is the thing about Westbrook, man. Like, he will make big shots because he is completely unafraid in every single moment. He grabbed several big offensive rebounds down the stretch. I think the Nuggets had like 8 offensive rebounds in the final 3 minutes of that fourth quarter. Like, that's crazy. Like, the fact that the Clippers, who are an excellent rebounding team, couldn't close possessions with rebounds was surprising. You know, back to Westbrook though, like he forced a turnover to keep the Clippers from even getting a shot off to tie when they were down 3 in overtime. I mean, like, he was so good, but then, you know, he would turn the ball over, or he'd miss a layup, or he'd push in transition, and instead of pulling it out and just running time off, he would take a tough layup and he would miss. But it was just this back and forth of him being great and being terrible. And he made the game fun. But if you're a Nuggets fan, you don't want the game to be fun. You want Michael Porter Jr. in the corner, spot it up, because if they double off him, well, they're not going to double off him. So hopefully, if you're a Nuggets fan, Michael Porter Jr. can be a little better throughout the game, so you don't have to close with Russell Westbrook. You can close with Michael Porter Jr. instead. Clippers Nuggets game 2 tonight. I'm very intrigued to see if the Clippers find a way to get Kawhi Leonard more involved. I get it that, you know, Zubac and Harden screen and roll is that is good offense for the Clippers, but Kawhi Leonard can't have long stretches where he just doesn't touch the ball. Like, that is unacceptable. Interested to see if the Clippers find a way to get him a little bit more involved. I also want to see if the Clippers go away from Chris Dunn and Ben Simmons at all, just because, you know, running offense 4-on-5 is just, it's not easy. It's not. Like, you have to, you know, be able to score if you're going to beat the Nuggets, and the Clippers can obviously do that, but it'd be even easier if they had an offensive option out there on the floor as opposed to Chris Dunn or Ben Simmons. But I get it. They want the defense. Finally, the Nuggets were -8 with Jokic on the bench. It's a good place for them to be. It is. But if they can be, you know, 0, if they can just be even when Jokic is on the bench, then they're going to have an excellent chance to win every game that they play, because you know that they're going to win those Jokic minutes. So we'll see how it goes. Can't wait for that game tonight. It starts at 10 o'clock. The Clippers, slight favorites on the road, but I am more excited for game 2 of Bucks Pacers tomorrow night. Okay, the Pacers in game 1 were awesome. They got production from everyone, while the Bucks only got production from Giannis. The Bucks committed a lot to Tyrese Halliburton early on the defensive side of the ball, and the Pacers love that because it allows Halliburton to do what he does best, and that is facilitate and find open teammates, and the Pacers have 5 guys on the floor at all times who can score. And so when you pay too much attention to Halliburton, you know, Andrew Nembhard gets 4 easy layups early. He had 8 points in the first quarter, and he would just catch and go to the rim, and he would finish. Myles Turner, he hit, you know, an opening 3, and he was wide open because Brook Lopez overcommitted to Tyrese Halliburton. Okay, that was so I just can't believe that the Bucks did that. Okay, so all the other guys for the Pacers, not named Halliburton, got off to really good starts, and then Mathurin and TJ McConnell, they came in off the bench and filled it up. Mathurin had 9 points in the second quarter. The Pacers finished the game with 6 players in double figures, and that is right up their alley. That is what they want. Tyrese Halliburton had a bad shooting game, but the Pacers offense still looked awesome in those first three quarters. It staggered a little bit there in the fourth, and it was because of the shooting struggles that Tyrese Halliburton had. They went a little bit more to that Halliburton and Siakam screen and roll, and it's just, when Halliburton's not scoring, like, that is probably not your best option. But at the same time, like, those are your two best players, so I get you wanting to have the ball in their hands whenever things are getting kind of close, because the Bucks were in the middle of that run. Okay, but Pacers defense stayed strong, and it didn't matter. Myles Turner also hit a huge shot late, kind of during that stretch. The Bucks had cut their 20-something point lead down to 12. Myles Turner catches it, one dribble, step back, launch a three, nothing but net. Let's go. Very impressive. And, that was kind of it. He played, I thought, outstanding. He had an awesome game, 17 points, only 5 rebounds, which I know people are going to complain about, but he defended like crazy. He blocked 4 shots. His rim protection is going to be so big in this series because Giannis is going to the rim. You know that he is. And so, you have to have someone there who can block shots and contest and make things tough. I thought Myles Turner did that with those 4 blocks. But the player of the game, the best player for the Indiana Pacers, was Siakam. He was great. 25 points, 7 rebounds, 10 of 15 shooting. Did his best, having to guard Giannis. He's having a career year from 3. You saw it, 3 of 5 from downtown in this game. Every shot seemed to go in whenever the Pacers needed one. He is so incredibly underrated. He is an amazing, amazing basketball player. Tyrese Halliburton might be all NBA, and that's great for him, but Siakam should be the all NBA guy on this Pacer team. He's been more consistent from start to finish, and he was consistent from start to finish in this game. Here's Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle talking about Pascal Siakam and his impact on game 1.
I think the average person watching the game wouldn't presume that he was 10 for 15 with 25 points. I mean, I think that's it. And a lot of his baskets come at in timely parts of the game, and for some reason they kind of get overlooked a little bit, But that's part of his grace as a competitor, and so he's obviously very, very important to us.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Pascal Siakam and his impact on the game, his timely shot making, his quiet 25 points. He was awesome in that game, and he's going to continue to do that because he was great in the playoffs last year. The question is going to be everyone else, more specifically Tyrese Halliburton. He's got to be great in these playoffs if the Pacers want to go where they think they can go. And Halliburton didn't shoot very well in that game on Saturday, but he was still good. I thought he played well. He was aggressive, and that's what the Pacers want. Okay, he was 0-7 from 3. That's probably not going to happen again. He's too good of a shooter for that to continue, but he seems to always make the right decision. That is the best thing about him. The thing is, you want him making decisions, though, in spots that lead to buckets. And him deciding to reset the offense or give the ball up to Siakam 30 feet away from the basket, sure, that might be the right decision, but I want him in the lane making that decision. And although he didn't make shots, I thought that he stayed aggressive. And he has to be aggressive in order for this Pacers offense to score points. It's why they scored 117 points in the game. It's why they had 93 after 3 quarters. So even though he didn't shoot the ball great, I still thought he played a good game. And the 12 assists that he had reflect that. Here is, Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle talking about, just this team and how important it is to be dangerous at all times on the floor and how good of a game Tyrese Halliburton had, despite not shooting very well.
Everybody on our team's got to be armed and dangerous, to score. Striking the right balance is everything for our team. And so as we get into this and you go from game to game, there's going to be different storylines. There's going to be different skirmishes during the game. There's going to be all kinds of that stuff. we've got to maintain a level head and a high level of aggression, while also maintaining poise.
Rick, Tyrese struggled shooting the ball tonight. But what'd you like about his overall game and still obviously doing what he normally does, getting guys involved?
Yeah, I don't worry about his shooting. It took a while for him to get on the board, but every team is going to be trying to make life miserable for him, and he understands it. And he's developed a really good discipline and patience when teams, try to take him out of it early. So, I'll have to look at the whole game to be really, really able to give you a global answer on that. But I thought he balanced things very well, and I thought defensively, his attention to detail was very good in this game, and it's got to be very good for everybody because these guys cause so many problems, and we're talking about a game where Lillard didn't even play yet, so there'll be a lot going on as we move forward.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about the importance of Tyrese Halliburton and, how all these teams are paying so much attention to him and, how he's gotten better at kind of managing all of that and how despite not making shots, as he said, he's not worried about the shooting. He shouldn't be because he's an excellent shooter. Sometimes shooters have off nights, but that didn't deter him from being aggressive and from being impactful. 12 assists, also grabbed 7 rebounds. Wasn't a negative on the defensive side of the floor. He's gotten so much better defensively. When you're just a smart basketball player and you just know where to be, you can be impactful on that end of the floor. I thought he did an excellent job of that during the game on Saturday. Hopefully that continues throughout the playoffs. And, the 7 rebounds were big, especially when you have Myles Turner as your center, who's not a great rebounder. But he was plus 27 on the night. That was the second highest mark in the game. Pascal Siakam was plus 28. So, not much better. Like, even though Halliburton didn't shoot it very well, I mean, he was still plus 27, which speaks to the impact that he had when he was on the floor, creating looks for his teammates and playing good defense. Okay, like there were moments where he'd get switched onto Giannis, whether, it was a rebound and, you're scrambling in transition and you just guard whoever. I thought he did a good job of just competing and being physical and holding his own and not fouling whenever he did get switched onto Giannis. So he was really good in this game, even if he didn't shoot the ball as well as you and I expect for Tyrese Halliburton to shoot the basketball. The Bucks offense didn't shoot the ball well either. And their offense just didn't look as good as the Pacers did. The Pacers offense is ball movement and quick decisions. The guys are cutting and setting screens and it's catch and shoot and it's easy. The offense looks easy and it's fun to watch. And it generated a lot of good looks for the Pacers. I thought they consistently got better looks than the Milwaukee Bucks did. But the Bucks offense looked total opposite when Giannis was on the floor. Every time Giannis touched the basketball, movement just stopped. And there were 9 pairs of eyes on Giannis. Everyone just keyed in on that guy. And he still got like 38, which is ridiculous. But he would catch the ball, wherever. And he would just sprint at the rim. Run over or through multiple Pacer defenders. That off arm is dangerous. And he'd get to the rim and he'd either get fouled or he'd finish or he'd do both. And rarely you would get a drive and kick because I thought the Pacers did a good job of staying home and not allowing him to be a facilitator for his teammates. But you can't allow him to shoot 15 free throws. That can't happen. Okay? And, Rick Carlisle was asked after the game about what adjustments that they're going to need to make going into game 2. And one of them that he brought up was the amount of fouls, because there's a chance that Damian Lillard is back on Tuesday. If he is, he's going to get fouled as well. He's going to do that annoying thing where you go over a screen and then he pulls up for 3 and then you nudge him in the back. He's going to do that multiple times. And you can't allow the Bucks to shoot, 40 free throws. That's a bit over the top, but you get my point. You can't allow them to beat you from the free throw line, because when Damian Lillard and Giannis are both playing, that is a real possibility. So here is Coach Carlisle after the game talking about Giannis and how the Pacers have to stop fouling.
Giannis got to the basket too much. We're trying to build walls. He's still getting there. And he's a great player, and great players cause, collateral problems. And so it's not a surprise, but, we got to look at that. We foul them a lot. We've got to cut down on fouls, and we'll see. I mean, the ebbs and flows of a series are so up and down. It's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen from game to game.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about making the adjustment of not allowing Giannis to get to the rim as much, and the adjustment of not fouling. And once again, Giannis took 15 free throws. Like, that is way too many. But I thought the Pacers defensively were good. I thought they did a good job of making Giannis do everything and not allowing him to be a facilitator. Like, no matter how good your best player is, when you ask them to go one-on-one every possession and try to score and also create, like, that's not good offense, and it's just not sustainable over the course of 48 minutes, and it's definitely not sustainable over the course of a 7-game series, and it didn't work in that game on Saturday. The Bucks were minus 18 with Giannis on the floor. That can't happen, even after Damian Lillard comes back, if the Bucks want to pull a game off the Pacers. Okay? Like they have to figure out a way to get him some help, and Damian Lillard's going to help with that. Like, when you look at the numbers, like at halftime, Giannis had 19. Gary Trent Jr. was their second leading scorer with 6. The Bucks had 3 players with 0 points. 2 of those guys were starters. Kyle Kuzma had a 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steal, 0 block game. Bro was just out there getting cardio. And Damian Lillard will obviously help with that. Like, he's going to boost the offense, but he's not going to fix all of their issues, because the Bucks have a lot of issues. Their defense was terrible. Their defense was no good. I've seen better defense at, church league games. Not really. I don't go to church league games. That's kind of boring. but you get my point. Okay? They have to be better defensively if they want a chance to beat the Pacers. Like, the Pacers generated countless open threes, and as good of a player as Damian Lillard is, and as much as he's going to help the Bucks compete in this series, because he's just going to give them more offensive firepower, he doesn't fix those defensive issues. He makes them worse. They gave up 93 points in 3 quarters. You're not beating anyone in the playoffs if you give up 93 points in 3 quarters. Okay, the Pacers generated countless open threes. They scored, not at will, but they scored a lot of points in the paint. And the other thing that I think is incredibly underrated about this series, and people aren't talking about it enough, is this Pacers defense is incredible. They've had the 7th best defense in the NBA since December 13th. That is a 57-game sample size. Tyrese Halliburton has greatly improved on that side of the ball. It's what's enabled them to be a better defensive team. Pascal Siakam is a good defender. Benedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker off the bench both have stretches defensively where they look good. TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith need no introduction when it comes to defending on the ball. Myles Turner has been anchoring this defense for the last decade. He's a good defensive anchor. He's not Evan Mobley or Victor Wembanyama, but he's done a pretty good job for the last 10 years holding down the back line of that defense. I mean, they just held the Bucks to under 100 points. It's mightily impressive. If you watch that game, the shot quality for Milwaukee wasn't very good. And a large part of it was Myles Turner and his 4 blocks doing a good job of contesting at the rim, and the Pacers staying home and not allowing those other guys to get going for the Milwaukee Bucks. And Myles Turner, man, he was awesome. He's just a good player. Like, there's no other way to really talk about him. I get it. He doesn't rebound as much as you want him to, but the guy can still play. He was very impactful during that game. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to talk Myles Turner, his impact on that game, and then we're going to get into the young guys a little bit as well.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice weekend. Hopefully you had a nice Easter. Oh, man, what a weekend. A lot of basketball, a lot of time with family. It's good. Get to see my parents tonight. Can't wait for that. So it'll be good. It'll be good. Pacers pick up a much-needed win on Saturday, taking that 1-0 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. Myles Turner was outstanding. Pascal Siakam was the best Pacer in that game. Do not get it twisted. But, man, Myles Turner, hitting big shots, grabbing important rebounds. He only had 5 of them, but they were the 5 most important rebounds of the game. I made that up. I don't know if that's really true or not. He did grab 1 or 2, though, late in the game. He obviously hits that big step back 3 to put the Pacers back up 15 when they were reeling just a little bit. He was awesome. That is not perfect, but that is a really good Myles Turner game. He played 31 minutes. It was 7 of 12 from 3, or excuse me, 7 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from downtown. Okay, 1 of 2 from the line. Don't love that. 5 rebounds. Wish he'd had a few more. But man, 4 blocks. Pacers were plus 24 when he was on the court. He finished with 19 points. He just did everything that you wanted. He stretched the floor like he is expected to do by making all those threes. He defended the rim, 4 blocks, made things tough on Giannis, made things tough on Brook Lopez as well, and did it all while only committing 2 fouls. Like, that's so important. Usually when you're playing against Giannis and the Bucks, a team that just runs to the rim like no other, usually like you're going to commit some fouls. Like, that's just the very simple reality of playing against Giannis and the Bucks and the way that they play basketball. But Myles Turner was able to do a pretty good job of defending the rim without fouling a whole bunch, which is a very underrated skill when it comes to protecting the rim. So I thought he was great. Nembhard, really good, defended, scored, really did everything that you want him to do. He had, 17 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, a couple of steals in there, but he was awesome. But I want to talk about the young guys on this Indiana Pacers team. I saw multiple, players in their first playoff game just crap down their leg. It wasn't good. Bad turnovers, rushing when they didn't need to, or some guys come out a little bit too amped up and they take some shots that they shouldn't. And then I watched the Pacers young players play in their first playoff game. Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin, and they were good. They looked very in control. They played the game at their own pace. And Coach Carlisle was asked about Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin's performances in their first playoff games. Here's what Rick Carlisle had to say.
I think they both did a very solid job out there. Mathurin's offense in the first half was a big factor. He had drives. He was active around the basket and cuts. Jarris hit a big shot. It's great for those guys to jump right into the deep end. Against a seasoned veteran playoff team in Milwaukee. I mean, they got a lot of guys that played a lot of playoff games. And to feel what it's like. The second half was a little bit different for everybody. It just they went more zone. They got it slowed down a little bit, and so the game's going to feel different. It's going to be different, and so we got to look at that. But overall, I was very happy for them. It was a great opportunity for them to get right into it, and some very good things happened.
Some very good things did happen there, Coach Carlisle, talking about Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin's performances in that first playoff game, their first playoff games of their careers. Jarris Walker comes in off the bench. So glad I have held on to the Jarris Walker stock. In fact, I actually bought more down the stretch of the season, those final 10 or 15 games when he really kind of started to get it going. So like, I probably own Jarris Walker Island now, just saying. So he played a really good 17 minutes. Say, well, Jonathan, he only took 2 shots. He only scored 3 points. But like, that is not his role. Like, he's not coming in off the bench and scoring 12 to 18 points. Like, that's not who he is yet. And that's okay. Like, that's what you have TJ McConnell and Benedict Mathurin there for. Those are your guys, and Obi Toppin. Those are your guys who are going to come in off the bench and, score 15-ish points. That's what those 3 guys do. Jarris Walker has 2 jobs, three jobs when he comes in off the bench. That is rebound, which he did an excellent job of. 5 rebounds in 17 minutes. Make good decisions with the basketball, because that's something that he struggled with from time to time. He's had a turnover issue. Some of that was decision making. Some of that was just lazy passing. Didn't see either one of those issues arise in those 17 minutes. He needs to play good defense. He did that. Like, he's out there having to guard Giannis. No one is capable, but he got out there. He competed his tail off, and you can't really complain. He's got really, really good hands. Got his hand on a couple of Giannis drives as well. So, like, he played good defense. He made good choices with the basketball. And the other thing he has to do is he has to make open shots. I talked earlier in the show a little bit about Clippers and Nuggets, and I thought that the difference in that game was every lineup that the Clippers ran out on the floor, they had a guy out there who was a 0 on offense. And it's much easier to guard 4 guys than it is 5. So Jarris Walker has to be a legitimate threat as the 5th option. And his ability to shoot the ball, he's shooting over 40% from 3 this season. So he has been that this year. The one open 3 he got, he took it, he made it. When he wasn't open, he went to the rim, and he found someone else who could run the offense. So I thought Jarris Walker played an excellent 17 minutes in that game 1 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Benedict Mathurin, he took 6 threes, which I didn't like. He finished the game with 13 points. He defended well. He was +9, which was that was the best plus minus of any guy that came off the bench. 13 points in 25 minutes of play. 2 of 7 from the field. So he didn't shoot the ball very well. 1 of 6 from 3, not great. Too many threes, but he got to the rim, and he took 8 free throws, and he made all 8. That is a valuable thing to have in the playoffs, because the game gets going, and whoever you're playing against, in this case the Bucks, like, they could throw a left hook. All of a sudden you're off balance. Having a guy who you can give the ball to and say, "Hey man, go to the rim, get fouled, get to the free throw line, hit both." Like, not only do you add 2 points to your score, but it just gives everyone an opportunity to just relax and take a deep breath. And like, you need that sometimes in these very intense, playoff games, especially when you're playing against the Pacers, or you are the Pacers and you're running up and down the floor. So Mathurin, really good game, defended well, got to the free throw line, which is important for him. And Jarris Walker did his job. And then some, quite honestly. So he was very, very impressive. Speaking of doing your job, Chris Ballard will be on the clock with the 14th pick on Thursday. I'm not excited about it. You're probably not excited about it. And we have great reasons to not be hyped up about the Colts draft this year, because it's just been nothing but disappointment year after year after year for the last 9 years, as long as Chris Ballard has been the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. And going into the draft, we're going to do a nice little game called Will Likely, Most Likely, and Absolutely. 3 things that I think will happen on draft night or during the NFL draft. I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm going to give you those 3 things when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a nice weekend. Hopefully you had a nice, happy Easter. Hopefully you had a chance to watch the Pacers pick up a Game 1 win over the Milwaukee Bucks, taking a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 of that series set to happen tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Make sure you are there. Make sure you are present, because there's nothing like Gainbridge Fieldhouse during an Indiana Pacers playoff game. Seriously, it's an absolute blast. If you can go, you should absolutely go, because like there is not a better environment in the NBA than that one. Seriously, it is absolutely electric in that building every time out. The Indianapolis Colts will be on the clock on Thursday with the 14th overall pick. And you and I both know there's no way that Chris Ballard is going to make us happy. He's just not. It's beyond impossible at this point. Okay, it just is. Like, he's going to find some way to mess this up, because that's all he's done for the last 9 years, is just find ways to mess things up. So we're going to do a little will likely, most likely, and absolutely Colts draft edition. Okay, the Colts will likely draft a tight end in the first 2 rounds. I don't think this is an absolute. The Colts need a tight end, but they also have several other needs, and I'm not convinced that Tyler Warren is going to be on the board with the 14th pick. If he's there, the Colts take him. Boom, tight end, checked off, hopefully, for the next decade. Colston Loveland would also be a good option with the 14th pick, but the Colts also need a linebacker, and they also need an offensive tackle, and they also need another edge rusher. They need all of those things in addition to a tight end, and there are going to be good linebackers and offensive tackles and edge rushers available at those positions, or available with the 14th pick. Also, someone's going to fall. Some guy that's supposed to go in the top 10 picks isn't going to go in the top 10 for some reason. Happens every year. And Chris Ballard is a value guy. If a guy that was supposed to go top 5 is available at 14, Chris Ballard probably going to take that guy. If he thinks he can get, a good linebacker with the 14th pick and a good tight end in the second round, then he's going to pass on a potentially great tight end in the first round to get that good linebacker or offensive tackle or edge rusher, and then also pick up a good one later on in the draft. And that's cool. I get it, but great players win games, not a bunch of good ones. Honestly, when it comes to value, when you look at this tight end class, it's very deep. And once you get past Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, a lot of those guys are the same in terms of the ceiling. So, honestly, if he waited until the 3rd round, I wouldn't put it past him. This is a deep tight end class. And like I said, the Colts have a lot of needs. So what happens when you don't hit on draft picks consistently? So I also think that trading for Dallas Goedert, the tight end from the Eagles, I do think that is potentially on the board, but I got to be honest, I do not want to trade with Howie Roseman, because if the Colts trade with Howie Roseman is going to find a way to win that deal, because that's just what the Eagles do now. They just win every trade, and every decision that they make seems to be the best one. So honestly, I kind of hope the Colts don't get into business with the Philadelphia Eagles. Most likely, the Colts will most likely trade down from 14. I do think that that's what's probably going to wind up happening with that 14th pick. This is the Chris Ballard MO. There's only a couple of players that available at 14 the Colts would stick around to take. If Tyler Warren is on the board at 14, they're going to stay put and they're going to take him. If, a potential top 5, top 7, top 8 draft pick falls to 14, the Colts are going to stay at 14 and they're going to take that guy. But if no one falls to 14, and if Tyler Warren isn't on the board at 14, then they're going to trade down. That's what they're going to do. And more specifically, they're going to trade down and draft an offensive tackle. There are a couple of offensive tackles in this draft class who are probably going to be top 10 picks. Then there are a couple at the end of the first round that are going to be drafted. Like, there is no, this offensive tackle should be taken with the 14th pick. Like, there's not a guy who kind of falls in that range. It's either like top 10 pick or, one of the last 12 picks of the first round. And because the trenches are so important to Chris Ballard, which isn't a bad thing, and the Colts also need an offensive tackle, this is the most likely outcome of the first round, a trade down and a drafting of a Josh Simmons or someone of similar stature out of Ohio State. This is the most likely thing to happen. Now, it's not an absolute, because I do think that there's a slight possibility that Tyler Warren stays on the board at 14. Do I think it'll happen? No. I think it's pretty slim that stud falls that far in the NFL draft. But, we'll see. Guys have fallen further than that before. And I think another wrinkle in this that we have to remember is Shane Steichen has quite a bit of pull in that war room, especially in terms of who they draft. And a lot of that comes from the approval rating. I think Jim Irsay loves Shane Steichen. I think that if you injected Jim Irsay with truth serum and you asked him, who do you like more, Chris Ballard or Shane Steichen, his answer would be Shane Steichen. And he would give you a lot of reasons why. Mainly, he would just go over the last 9 years that Chris Ballard's been here and just be like, I don't think I need to say anything else. I think why I like Shane Steichen a little bit more. So if Tyler Warren's gone and Shane Steichen for some reason loves Colston Loveland or some other player at 14, then Chris Ballard is going to be inclined to take that guy there. So if Shane Steichen's indifferent about Loveland or some other player that they're targeting with that 14th pick, then I do think we wind up seeing a trade down from Chris Ballard. The absolute. The Colts will absolutely disappoint us. That is the one thing that I know is for certain. Chris Ballard and the rest of his staff are going to find a way to disappoint us, because this is what Chris Ballard has done repeatedly throughout his time as the Colts general manager. Let's go through his 9 years of first-round picks. Last year, he took Leatu Latu in the first round. Jury's still out, but he wasn't great. There's still some hope for him, though. We'll kind of see. But 4.5 sacks doesn't exactly inspire confidence that you hit that pick out of the park. 2023, they took Anthony Richardson. Currently, that looks like a terrible pick. Sorry, that's just the very simple reality of it. We're going to find out this year whether or not it was as terrible as it currently appears, but we will find out. We will. So 2022, they didn't draft anyone in the first round. They traded that first-round pick for Carson Wentz. Didn't that go lovely? They missed the playoffs that year, went 9-8, lost a road game to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were the worst team in the NFL that year. And the Eagles, I believe that they ended up trading that first-round pick to the Bucs, and they drafted Tristan Wirfs, a guy who's going to be an offensive tackle in the NFL for a really long time. 2021, the Colts decided to take Kwity Paye, who has been solid. At best, he is not an elite pass rusher. Sure, he's good against the run, but you don't draft edge rushers in the first round because they're good against the run. You draft them in the first round because they can get after the quarterback. And Kwity Paye's pressure rate, being 10.1% last year, reflects that he does not get after the quarterback at an elite level. He doesn't. Doesn't look like the Colts are going to extend him. They picked up the fifth-year option on his contract, and I'd be kind of surprised if he was a Colts again next season. He's like just good enough, where if he's playing for you, you're like, yeah, this is fine. But you need a guy opposite him who can really kind of disrupt things in the passing game. 2020, no selection. Colts didn't have a first-round pick. They traded it to the 49ers for DeForest Buckner, who has been solid, but not great. I think that is, the best way to describe DeForest Buckner's tenure in Indianapolis. 2019, they didn't take anyone. They traded they traded their first-round pick for the Commanders' two second-round picks. The Commanders ended up taking Montez Sweat, who's a fringe double-digit sack guy currently playing for the Bears. Man, imagine if the Colts had a fringe double-digit sack guy on their roster right now. Wouldn't that be lovely? And then 2018, Chris Ballard made his best draft choice, and that is taking offensive guard Quentin Nelson with the 6th overall pick. This is a guy who is going to be a Hall of Famer. With that being said, if an offensive guard with the 6th overall pick is the best draft choice you have ever made, then you wind up where the Colts are. And that is middling and a lot of people not really caring about how good or bad you are. You wind up being uninteresting. And that's what the Colts have been really ever since Chris Ballard took over. Simple reality of it. So, yeah, great. Quentin Nelson, probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Really hard to do as an offensive guard, but you know, if that's your best pick, then come on. You're not going to win very many games. And it's been pretty evident here in Indianapolis. And then finally, the first round pick of the Chris Ballard era, 2017. The Colts take Malik Hooker. He didn't stick around very long. He wasn't very good. And the Colts declined his 5th-year option. That's the definition of admitting defeat on a player that you drafted in the first round. You just say, yeah, sorry, man. We made a mistake. We don't want you here for 5 years. Our bad. My bad. And I'm very intrigued to see who the Colts wind up taking with that 5th pick because it's really important. With that 14th pick because it's going to be so important for them because like they have to have a good draft. Free agency was good. They got to follow it up with a good draft because you need good players, especially when your quarterback is as bad as whoever the Colts run out there this year, whether it's Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. That's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. We will continue to cover the NFL draft the rest of the week. Chris Ballard had a press conference today where he said things. I don't know if they were smart or not. Probably not. I'll have audio from that tomorrow. Dan will have some of that audio during his show. And yeah, we'll talk Pacers Bucks game 2 tomorrow as well. The Dan Dockett Show is scheduled to come up next. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to tune into my show. If you want more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube channel. Go subscribe over there. And while you're at it, subscribe to Indy Sports Ticket as well. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting 10 a.m.